Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into SST on Apple Podcasts app, Spotify, and now on YouTube. We're talking NBA Finals, obviously. The series is tied 1-1. Warriors dominating third quarters. Let one slide in game one, but put the foot on the throat in game two. Here to talk about all that fun stuff. Back from the conference finals episode, we had to get him back in the business. Pat Boyle, what's up, brother?
What's up, Petey? How we doing, boys? 2 games in. It is now a best of 5. Let's rock and roll.
And some would say a series don't start till someone loses at home. That happened off the jump. And they answered back, I think we're feeling okay. Shen, what's good, brother? Mark Shenloogian.
You know, Pete, I'm glad we're back in about a couple of weeks rather than took way too long last time. So I'm excited.
We all had predictions. We'll go over that, what we did and may have picked right last time around and what we're thinking about this series. And last but not least, Cody O'Conner, second time on Subway Sports Talk. You feeling like, maybe it was a little bit of freshman luck. We're going to sophomore slump here tonight, or are you going to ride right through it?
Gotta ride right through it. Excited to be back, boys. Thanks for having me. Let's get it going.
Yeah, you brought the heat in your game one, podcast one. So I want that same energy. I expect nothing less. So the four of us here talking NBA Finals, you guys know where it's at right now. And I mean, this is shaping up to be an exciting finals. Now, we haven't had the close game yet, and that seems to be something that's been true for many series throughout this. We haven't talked about the conference finals that we previewed, but that went like nobody wanted it to outside of the last game or two in the Boston-Miami series, where we finally got some good competitive basketball. So far through 2, I think it's been competitive, I would say. So Pat and everyone, I'm going to go rapid fire around here. Quick 1 or 2 sentences on your thoughts on the first 2 games, what your prediction was, because I know we're all honest men out here, and how you're feeling now. Pat, give me that in 2 or 3 sentences.
Yeah, I would have said Warriors in 6 going into it. And just because I feel like, people say these conspiracy theories and, the officiating in this, and the NBA wants and needs this series to go 7. In this particular case, I fully believe that. I do think the Warriors will have a chance to close out Boston in game 6. But will the NBA, will the officiating let that happen? I don't know. So I'm going to say confidently Warriors in 7, but I still do think Golden State can pull away and win this in 6 games.
I hear you. I'll jump in to throw mine out there, then we'll hop back around. I also thought Warriors in 7 beforehand, so I'm not going from 6 to 7. Warriors in 7 was my pick. Felt like a cop-out pick just because it's such a tough series to read, and we've seen how it can go either ways so far. So Warriors in 7, I'm sticking with it. I think everybody tends to overreact to game 1. That clearly happened. I came on the pod right after game 1 and said, I'm still betting Warriors game 2. I'm happy with that decision. So Mark Shenloogian, on the other hand, game 1 and 2, quick thoughts. What was your prediction? How you feeling now?
Guys, coming into the series, I'm actually just like Pat. I was at Warriors in 6. But unlike him, I'm not going to get off that hill. I'm staying with it. I'm feeling good about it, to be honest with you as well. So I feel like they could easily be up 2-0, but I'm sticking with it. Warriors in 6.
If anyone's watching on YouTube, my initial reaction to you agreeing with Pat was shaking my head, and then you still mixed in a jab somehow, and I really appreciate that. I chuckled out loud. So there's that. Cody O'Conner, what's your thoughts? You know the drill.
Well, I'm glad somebody's going to have to do it, because last pod I told you I got the Boston future. I'm not hopping off that bandwagon. Am I a little nervous? Maybe. But I said Boston in 7, I think, in our text receipts, and I'm going to stick with that, man. I think it's going to be a long series. Let's ride, Celtics.
There we go. So we have somebody on the Celtics here, and I'm glad we do, because it really is one of those series that feels like every game could have similar moments, but you're going to see vastly different performances. And after game 1, this is what I want to jump on first. It was one of those situations where, yes, the Warriors had that typical really strong third quarter, but the Celtics combined great shooting from Horford and Derek White, and then Marcus Smart late in the game as well, along with a Jaylen Brown strong game. Jason Tatum with 13 assists. It was like, what's going to give, right? Are the Warriors others going to fall apart and Steph not going to score in the second half? Or are the Celtics others not going to shoot like 60% from three in game two. In reality, two things could have evened out and we could have had a close game. In fact, we didn't have that. Tatum had a good one offensively. No one else did. Warriors played a similar game except didn't let off. Did you see any particular adjustments, or do you chalk this up to a situation where the Celtics shot lights out of their minds and just came back to earth?
Yeah, I think the end of game one, the fourth quarter in game one, was a fluke. I'm going to just go out and say that Boston couldn't miss to save anybody's life. So to kill anybody's life, they couldn't miss. They couldn't miss a shot, right? They hit, 9 threes in the fourth quarter? I mean, it felt like 20. Everything they took went in. It didn't matter who was shooting it, whether it was Tatum, whether it was Big Al Horford, whether it was Jaylen Brown. I mean, Marcus Smart was drilling threes. Derek White was hitting threes like there was no tomorrow. And we saw what I expected to see in game one. We saw that in game two, and that was the Warriors pull away like they should and like they have the talent to every game, because they've dominated the third quarter in both of games 1 and 2, 38-24 in game 1, 35-14 in game 3. I mean, the Boston Celtics look like Cody does right now. If you're watching on YouTube, they're in the dark. You can barely see them. So no offense, Cody. The lighting not the best here, but that's what the Boston Celtics look like in the third quarter. You can't find them. And that's where the Warriors in the past and the dynasty they have built, that is where they are at their best. And that is pulling away once the second half starts. It's those halftime adjustments. It's those little things that Steve Kerr does so well, that Curry does so well, that Draymond does so well. So I expect to see more second half. I wouldn't say domination, but we're going to see who's the best team in the second half, and that is Golden State. And they proved that in 3 of the 4 quarters so far in the second half through games 1 and 2, with the outlier being Boston got unconscious for one game in the fourth quarter when they absolutely needed it. They stole that game. That's what we're used to seeing Golden State do, right? They just knockout punch, gut punch, hook, jab, uppercut, see you later, knockout. That's what Boston did to them in game 1, and I don't think Golden State was ready to prepare and to adjust for that, because they also couldn't score, right? They also usually can match teams. They couldn't hit shots, and that's where the Celtics are different from teams that the Warriors have played in the finals in the past. It's that defense that, okay, all right, we can't get a stop right now, but hey, at least we know we can hit threes right back or get to the free throw line. They couldn't do that in the fourth quarter in game 1, but they made the adjustments in game 2. So again, I think Warriors are talented enough to do this in 6, but I do think after, I wouldn't say disrespecting, but I don't think I've given Boston enough credit so far throughout these entire playoffs. I did think they'd beat Brooklyn, but I thought they'd get stopped by Milwaukee. I thought they'd get stopped by Miami. So credit to them for getting here. But again, I think through 2 games, you've seen what we've expected to see outside of an outlier fourth quarter in game 1.
Yeah. And thinking about the adjustments that you were alluding to there, I have numbers here that it's hard to look at attempts, 3-point field goal attempts as a very telling number, but I think this one actually is. So listen to this. 23 3-point field goal attempts from Al Horford, Marcus Smart, and Derek White in game 1. That's combined 23 threes attempted out of those 3. Just 7 attempts out of those 3 in game 2. How does that happen, right? Like, they have all the confidence in the world. They're shooting the lights out, all the stuff that Pat mentioned there. And now in game 2, they only get 7 combined jumpers off. What happened, right? And I even said it on the pod I did by myself after game 1. Horford, I haven't seen him shoot without hesitation like that. So quick triggered in his career. I really never have. And Derek White obviously just got hot. Horford wasn't even able to get those shots off. It looked like the Warriors came out with a scheme in game 1 and said, hey, Tatum is their freaking guy. If he scores 30, we're in trouble. Let's shut him down. And then he made all the right passes. How many times did he get an assist just by making a simple pass out of a double? And then on this time around, Tatum gets his shots off, and he actually makes a bunch of shots, and it completely flips the script of all the other guys on the Celtics, right? Tatum had 28 points. He took 9 threes, 19 field goal attempts overall. And that dynamic was different. It seems like they made that decision game 1. It didn't go how they wanted. They didn't allow it to work out the same way in game 2. I don't know if that means anything for game 3, because they're nimble enough and smart enough and veteran enough to do multiple methods to play defense here. But that was something that completely jumped out to me. Cody, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that first of all, Boyle with a shot out of nowhere. You guys had a whole pregame show to mention the lighting if you wanted. Like,
hey, if you think you were getting
anything.
in this, if you think you were getting on this pod and you were just skating right through with no jabs thrown at you, I don't know what you expected.
Listen, like Boston did in game 2, I can take a jab and get right back into it. We'll be just fine. So
There we go.
I think a couple things kind of reign true with that. I think in game 1, Boston, that fourth quarter was, you could argue if you're a Warriors fan, is a little fluky. Like, they started 7 for 7 from 3. You're going to see that again? Probably not. But they kept making the right play. That's the Boston team that I've seen for 4 months that I'm like head over heels about. That's the team. That's the hope with that team that can shoot the lights out, that can make the right play, that can get different guys involved. The Warriors certainly made an adjustment in game 2. But I'm not going to overreact to game 2, much like Pete said people overreact to game 1. I think this Warriors team is probably slightly more talented, if not just to the same. But Boston's got the guys to throw at them. That's where I believe Boston can kind of make up some ground. They've got those long wing defenders we talked about in the last series that can maybe kind of make things a little uncomfortable for that Warriors team. But my fear with Boston is they at times fall back into that old Boston habit. They play heavy ISO sometimes. It causes a lot of turnovers. They rely too much on Tatum, where it's like one guy is going to take it, next guy takes it, you, me. And they forget, hey, we've got different guys that can make plays. We've got Al Horford that not can just only knock down these shots. He's a playmaker, man. He's been in this league for how long? He's a guy that you can trust with the ball in his hands at any time. So that game 1, 7 for 7 in the fourth quarter. Is it fluky? Maybe. Were a lot of those shots good ones? Yeah, you better believe they were. So hopefully Boston comes back out, makes their own adjustments. But if they revert into that old Boston way, this Warriors team's too talented, and you just saw it in game 2's third quarter, where they're going to make you really pay if you're turning the ball over and not able to score with them, because this isn't Miami anymore. Not to throw shade at Miami, because I really have a lot of respect for that team and culture and organization, but this Warriors team's too talented. You fall asleep for 5 minutes, the game might be over. That's where I fear Boston, but this team I think is different, and I believe that that can reign true in this series.
I don't know if you're going to lead in with the question or not,
I know,
or whatnot. If you just want me to go off the cuff,
I was testing you there. I just figured I'd throw you on the big screen and see if
I'm good. I'm good with it.
Let it ride.
Look, I don't know what it is about this show, but me and Pat Boyle just seem to agree completely with the topics. I think the game 1 was an absolute fluke in the fourth quarter. Complete aberration. You can make nothing of it. Honestly, through the first 2 games, I really don't know whether you can say, oh, Golden State needs to do this or Boston needs to do that. I don't know if you found out too much from either game, because the only difference was Boston had that huge fourth quarter in game 1, and in game 2, Golden State was in the same position, but just put the game away and put it out of reach. Where, game 1, Golden State, they just couldn't weather the storm from Boston. They panicked a little bit down the stretch, started taking some shots quicker in the shot clock because they had to make up that deficit. But in game 2, they got out to the big lead and they were able to hold it. And keep in mind, this is all with Klay Thompson contributing next to nothing so far in these first 2 games. So I feel much better as a Golden State fan, or backer in this case. I guess you could call it both for me, than I would be for Boston. And it's not like Boston's protected home court crazily in these playoffs either. I believe they've dropped 4 games. 1-1 going into game 3. I actually do like the Warriors. I think that Boston, with its quote-unquote season on the line, will get game 4, but then they'll drop game 5 and game 6. I just can't trust Tatum and Brown. They're just too wildly inconsistent for me at this stage.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree a lot of stuff there. And to me, one of the reasons why I love this league so much, and also sometimes get frustrated with the narratives around this league, is how hard people come out after one game saying that that's fact. That is how it's going to be. And I came on this podcast and said, when I watched the Celtics play offense after game 1, it felt like I was watching a version of the Warriors. The way the movement was running around the arc, the ball was flying around, the right passes were being made by everybody on the team, which is a key point that you were leading to, Cody, and you, Shen, that Tatum and Brown can get a little bit too blinded towards the hoop sometimes, that they want to just be scorers. And that wasn't the case in game one. It was double, make the right pass, drive, kick, get the open shot, pass us extra pass. And then game two, they reverted back, right? So when you see something in game one and then everyone's like, oh, the Celtics, they're like the new Warriors. They got too much length for the Warriors to deal with them. They're playing better. They're passing the ball, this, that, the other thing. That doesn't mean it's true. And just like you said, Cody, it goes for the same side on the Warriors. Just because Steph went 7 for 7 or 6 for 6 in the first quarter of game one doesn't mean he's going to shoot like that all the time either. So it goes both ways, but everyone kind of chalked up, oh, the Celtics are here, bro. It's not that easy. I figured the Warriors would come back, but this is where it gets really interesting. And this is where I want to talk about some specific players and their matchups and what they've been able to or not able to accomplish so far. One guy I want to call out first, just because I think he's such a huge swing man in this series. And I don't mean that as a large wing who plays the 3-4 position. I mean as somebody who can swing it in one way or another. It's Jordan Poole in my eyes. The thing that made him so special all regular season wasn't just the jump shooting. That was what made the headlines. That what made the pool party moniker. But what made him really, really impactful in my eyes is that he's another guy who can put pressure on the rim, finish at the rim, and pass. You talk about triple threat. Everyone thinks about being at the top of the key before they dribble, right? But being able to be a triple threat from all over the court where you can move the ball, attack the rim, make all the right plays, that's what makes the Warriors special when Jordan Poole's on the team. So that's what I wanted to see. We got glimpses of it in game two. I don't know if this is a bad matchup for him because of his defense and also maybe Smart and White just being tough matchups for him. So I don't know, Pat, is Jordan Poole on your radar as a guy who's going to get it right in the rest of this series, or a guy who you think is going to leave this Warriors team hanging a bit?
Oh, well, I hope he does, because he has the talent. I mean, like you said, we've seen it all year. I think he's going to step up. I think we are going to see a Jordan Poole game here in one of these next couple of games, whether that's game 3, game 4, or game 5. I think he's going to have a 30-point outburst where he's the leading scorer, and all the headlines are on him again, much like they were in round 1 against Denver, where he stole the show when Steph was still working his way back from the injury and coming off the bench. I mean, remember, it was, is Steph Curry actually going to stay on the bench? Fuck no, he's not going to stay on the bench. But that's how good Jordan Poole was playing. So I think where he can be most effective, and where if I'm Steve Kerr, this is what I'm doing. Jordan Poole is playing the final 5 minutes of every quarter, and he's probably playing most of the fourth quarter. He's averaged 24 minutes so far through 2 games. He needs to be playing 30 minutes. He's that talented of a shooter. And I say the last 5 minutes of each quarter is because he is, I would make the argument, and maybe we have the advanced metrics. I know Mark likes to argue with me when I said that Daniel Jones was running 23 miles an hour one time on that one run before he fell flat on his face. I don't have the advanced metrics for who's the fastest guy in terms of how fast they run, but Jordan Poole looks like he is outrunning everybody. When he gets out in transition, when he gets to the bucket, when there's a lane, he is like a gazelle. He's got long strides. He is fast as hell, and he puts that much pressure on a defense that, especially when they're tired, last 5 minutes of the second quarter, last 5 minutes of the game, I think that's where you can bring him in and burn defenses, because he's got that jetpack on him where he can just flat out beat guys. So I think obviously the jump shooting, 1, but 2 is his ability to get to the paint and get to the bucket with his speed, I think can wear teams down. And even though he's not necessarily a great on-ball defender, just the fact that the way the Warriors were playing defense in game 2, where they were getting guys off the perimeter and kind of letting Jason Tatum, more or less, go through those ISO routes, he picked up 2 steals just because he was, I wouldn't say running like a chicken with his head cut off, but he was running around just hands up, ready to make plays. He got a couple steals out of that. So I think that's where Jordan Poole can be effective on both sides of the floor. And again, I think we're seeing a 30-point game coming from here, not too in the distant future. And the one other thing, Pete, to go off of what you were saying about how all the supporting guys, killed Golden State in game 1, and then they kind of changed their scheme defensively. Jason Tatum dropped 28 points in game 2, right? 28 points and hit 6 threes.
Yep.
And he was a minus 36. So that goes to show you everything you need to know there. He put up all the points he wanted to, and he was still the biggest detriment in terms of a plus minus that was on the floor for Boston.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps a little bit over the top on the true outcome of the plus minus in that situation, but 100% Pat. You could tell. That's where, is he a true minus 36? No, he just happened to be on the court. He played like the entire game until it was over. So he had the brunt of that minus, but yeah, 100%. It was a completely different vibe out there for those guys. Cody, any other matchups, or you can go on the Poole front, you can go on the other matchups, anything in particular on that front that jumped out to you in the first two games?
Yeah, I'll definitely start with Poole because that's where we're leading off. I think what makes Poole so great is his aggressiveness and his not afraid of the moment. Like when we came into the playoffs, I was telling somebody, obviously not you guys, we weren't on the pod yet, but Poole's going to rise to this moment. I just think that he's kind of got that it factor, that thing about him that says like, I'm not afraid of this moment. I'm ready for it and I can rise for it. It's going to mean a lot to him. If they get a 30-point game, chalk that one up. That's going to be the Warriors win. If you get that 30-point, 25-plus point Jordan Poole game, see you later, Boston. Hopefully that's in game 4 and you're up 2-1 because you're not going to win a game when Jordan Poole goes for 30, especially if you do get something from Klay Thompson. Not to sound like I'm all Boston, no Warriors, but we talked a little Warriors. So let me go back on the Boston front here. I think a big X factor for Boston's going to be Marcus Smart. Like, what version of Marcus Smart are we going to get? Are we going to get the guy pre-ankle injury who looked like they're finally true point guard that they've been asking for the entire Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum combination? Or are we going to get this Marcus Smart who jacks up some bad shots, who turns the ball over a little bit, who's not right now the defensive player of the year? He's not even the best defensive player on his team right now. If you get the January, February, March Marcus Smart, all right, let's go, Boston, because that team's going to move the ball. That team's not going to rely so heavy ISO on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, where, like you said, they get that tunnel vision where it's me, then you, and that team is not going to win. But the Marcus Smart who can move the ball, who can initiate their offense, who can knock down a big shot. I do believe in Smart in a big situation, even though he missed 6 in a row, it seemed like, against Miami in that closeout game. But that Marcus Smart, I think that's the X factor. I think you're going to get what you're going to get from Tatum. I was oddly more impressed by Tatum's game 1 because he didn't have the shooting night. He didn't have that great night. He had 13 assists, 8 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. Was just doing everything. Defensively was great. So I think you're going to get good Jason Tatum games. You're going to get a big Jaylen Brown game. You're going back home. The role players are supposed to step up back at home. Can you get a Peyton Pritchard game or a Derek White game? But X factor for me on Boston side is Marcus Smart. So we'll see what we get from him. That's going to tell a lot to me.
Something I think is interesting about role players, because I do really like to think about those guys, those others. Some of them aren't true role players. I'm kind of generalizing there, right? Like Al Horford's not a role player. He's a starter. But besides the point, most of those others need confidence and need to be encouraged to continue to shoot when they miss, right? Except Marcus Smart. Like he's kind of the only guy where he has the confidence. Like you don't want to discourage him from shooting, but when he's missing or not being the impactful player that you want, you don't want to tell him to keep doing more and more and more. You want him to kind of come back in and be a facilitator, be a point guard. Because Jordan Poole and Derek White really come to mind with this. They're two guys that if you're Steph Curry, you're Jason Tatum, you're the coaches of those two teams, you want them when they miss. Hey, good shot. Pull that one again. Al Horford, even the same way, even though he's a vet, he doesn't particularly need it, but they need him to shoot relentlessly. They need them to let it fly a little bit. And everybody but Marcus Smart, which is funny, you need that confidence. You need that star, that number one leader guy to say, hey, you missed 3 in a row. Those were good shots, bro. Keep it going. Let it fly. And you saw that feel right with Derek White. It still looks good, even though he was a little bit worse from inside at 3. He was 2 for 4 in game 2. Jordan Poole obviously needed that, where I said after game 1, I want Kerr to come out and run plays for Jordan Poole early. As soon as he's in the game, let's get him shots up early. Now, Klay is like Marcus Smart right now. You don't got to tell him nothing. He's getting his up. It's absolutely insane how quick his trigger is. That man wants to be old Klay so bad. Unfortunately, it hurts that he's not yet. Shen, Klay, before you get into any other matchups, what do you feel like watching Klay right now? Because it's kind of surreal.
I just feel like the avalanche is coming. That's what it is for me. If you ask me X factors for the series, I tell you that the two for me, starting number one would probably be Klay Thompson. Because if he goes back to, even like 80% of what he was, I feel like, he's pretty much missing 80% of his shots, right? Or at least that's what it feels like from watching. I think Golden State will be just fine. And number two for me on the Warriors is Draymond Green, as he continues to just set the tone. He's got to continue to tiptoe that fine line and not get himself tossed. And as long as he does that and sets the tone for the team, especially defensively, I think Golden State will be just fine. I get a lot of young OKC vibes from this Boston team, especially in this final series. They're talented and they're there, but I just don't think they have what it takes to win. I feel like Golden State won't ever really be in too much trouble in this series. It's just the way it feels to me. If you want to go X factor for me on the Boston Celtics side, it's the entire Boston Celtics team to me. They all need to play above their heads. And if they can do that, then yes, that's what I believe it's going to take for them to win. I don't think it's just one separate player here or there, them getting like a Derek White game, Marcus Smart game, Al Horford game. I think everybody collectively as a unit needs to play better than anything they've shown. Because I just think that's what it's going to take for them to overtake Golden State, because it's just the shooting that they have and the demoralizing threes that they can hit where guys just drop their heads and walk back up the court. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. Because they have the ability that nobody else does in the NBA, and that's to erase a 10-point lead within literally a minute and a half. You do all that work for almost a quarter and a half, and it's just gone. So,
Shen, that's a really interesting way to look at it, because a lot of times when you get to the finals, and a lot of times even in every series of the finals, there's usually, or the playoffs, there's one guy per team where it's like, all right, that guy's getting 30. We'll chalk that up. Let's see what happens elsewhere. You saying what you just said kind of means you don't think Tatum is that guy, right? Is that an over reading of your statement there?
I don't think he's there yet to where he can single-handedly carry them.
Like, you're not just chalking his box score. Yeah, you're not chalking his box score up 32, 6, and 6.
You can do that. I think it's going to take more.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I read it a little too far on the Tatum front there. But Pat, do you understand what I'm saying on that question mark there? What do you think about Tatum and his narrative in this whole thing? Because people are really excited to give him, the quote unquote top 5, even though we have, 12 top 5 players in the NBA apparently, but people want to give him top 5 moniker. Do you think he's there? Do you think he's in that elite class of the highest order? Or do you think that there's more that he has to prove for you to feel that way?
I think he's proved a lot this year. I'd say he's, if not in the top 10, I know like you just said, I love that quote. Would you say it seems like we have 20 top 5 players or 10 top 5 players?
Yeah, there's about 12 top 5 players at least, right?
Yeah, I feel like we have like 20 top 10 players, but I would definitely throw him right on the border of that conversation if he's not in it already. And the rest of these finals is going to tell us whether or not he's there. I think the fact that he had a horrible shooting night in game 1 and still contributed with the 13 assists, plus played good defense, and then rebounded for 28 points. Look, the big moments are going to be in TD Garden. I think if it comes down to, let's say, a game 7 on the road in Golden State or in San Francisco, and he shoots like 1 of 13, then yes, then it's like, okay, biggest game of his life, and he came up flat. But the big moments for him in this series are going to be at home, because that's where Boston has to take care of business, right? Mark said it. They've already lost several games at home here so far in the playoffs, where they've then had to steal games on the road to get themselves back in series and win series like they did in Miami in game 7. So for me, it's going to be games 3, 4, and 6. If it gets to a 6 for Jason Tatum here, he's got to be the biggest contributor. He's got to be the guy that's leading the charge. If he's not dropping 30, then he has to drop 12, 13 assists and find the open teammates. Because at the end of the day, where Mark says everybody on Boston has to step up. Yeah, that was the case for game one, where Horford's hitting threes, Derek White's hitting threes, Smart's hitting shots. I said it was a fluke. And in game two, again, I think we saw a little bit of a reverting back to the normal. Al Horford's not dropping 20-plus points. Derek White's not hitting 6 threes, 5 threes. So Tatum is going to have to be the guy that steps up. He's probably going to have to average 26 to 30 points per game the rest of the series for Boston to have a chance. I think he's got it in him, but at the same time, are 30 points coming at the expense of 5 to 6 turnovers a game? So obviously it's not just about the scoring. We know he's a great defender. But again, I think when you need a bucket in this series, it's got to be Jason Tatum.
Let's go deep bench here and talk about some true. I use the word others a lot when I talk about NBA teams, and I'm talking about just non-superstars. Let's go deep bench, the others. One that jumps to mind, or two that jump to mind for the Warriors, are Nemanja Bjelica and Gary Payton. You could even sprinkle. We haven't talked about Andrew Wiggins at all right now, but he's more of a regular other. And then over on Boston, Peyton Pritchard got a shout out. Grant Williams kind of hasn't looked like himself in this series thus far. Hasn't got off to a good shooting start.
He's barely taken any shots. They
right.
haven't gotten him open. Golden State has shown respect to him so far.
Yeah, they know that he can light you up. So on the deep bench, the others, any of those names or anyone else that I didn't mention jump out that you're keying in on game 3, game 4. Cody?
We kind of got to a lot of them there. I think maybe an Otto Porter Jr. He's kind of shown some flashes early on in this series for Golden State. And, that's the thing. This Golden State team, they're super talented. So, again, I hope I'm not sounding like a hater, because I've told myself and a buddy of mine who's a Warriors fan, I'm not going to miss this one. I spent the last time hating on that Warriors team. Whether Shen knew this or not, when he shouted out my Oklahoma City Thunder, I'm a Thunder fan. So when Durant went there, I completely shut down that Warriors team, and I missed some of the best basketball because I was too busy hating on it. Said I'm not going to do that this time, and I'm not. So an Otto Porter Jr. is the kind of guy I look at. I don't know. I'm kind of looking real quick, but I think we got to most of what Boston's got to give.
Right.
We haven't mentioned Robert Williams. He just doesn't seem healthy to me. I don't know if maybe this just isn't the series for Grant Williams. Maybe it's just a matchup thing. Maybe it's more of a let's go Peyton Pritchard, Derek White combination to kind of eat up more of those minutes. Or maybe there's a bigger adjustment coming in game 3. But I think we got to most of the deep bench in my eyes.
Yeah, schematically for Grant Williams, he seems to do better when there is some sort of big or rim protector that wants to be around the rim a lot, so he can just kind of leak out and get to those spots of his, the corner and the wing, whatever, where he can let it fly a little bit. And with the Warriors defensively, I mean, when Looney's in there, who we haven't mentioned either, he's so easy to forget unless when he gets 17 rebounds, because he's been so damn solid. He deserves more than that. But other than when Looney's in there, the Warriors defense is usually slightly more perimeter oriented, right? You think Wiggins, you think Porter, you think Green being everywhere, even Gary Payton's all over the place. It's not going to leave Grant Williams just standing out there waiting with the quick trigger. It's not coming to that moment for him. So I agree. It'll be interesting to see if they find a way to get him 5 or 6 shots. Because I think after the way game 1 went, and he felt so good, and then getting shut down on pure attempts, right? It's not even like the Celtics, shot so terribly for the guys who actually took shots. They shot fine. They shot 40% from 3 as a team. They just didn't get the attempts that they got in game 1. So I don't know what they can do differently, but something's got to give. Shen, any last words on this particular topic before we start to go into specific predictions?
Pete, for me with the finals, I don't think anybody, or maybe it's just the matchup, as Cody alluded to, at the end of the bench is really going to have the impact to send it over, at least from my point of view. I'm staying with what I said before. I just think Boston as a team collectively, they should just replay that fourth quarter over and over and over, and they need to play like that every single quarter from game 1. So,
you said his name, and I think he had a huge impact coming back for the first time in a couple of weeks in game 2. I think his defense gives Golden State the edge. It's why I'm so confident that, screw it. Forget 7. Golden State is winning this in 6. I'm now
back to
100% that they're winning it in 6. And that, I think, is GP Jr. I think Gary Payton's defense gave the Warriors a gigantic boost in game 2. I think his energy, his ball pressure on the ball is going to play a huge impact in giving them another tremendous defender to guard Tatum, to guard Brown, to get out on the perimeter. I think Gary Payton, we saw him first game in weeks since he broke his elbow, and he played, 25 minutes? So he's probably going to be scratching 30 minutes here the rest of this series. I think he's going to have a huge impact. He did in game 2, and I think he's going to be someone where you're like, when you get past Draymond and Klay and Steph, and you get past Tatum and Brown and Al Horford and Marcus Smart, where you're like, wow, this guy was a huge factor. I think it's going to be Gary Payton.
Watching him play is so fun. I mean, what a just rocket out there in people's chest, making plays on offense too, right? Like, he's not a guy who's going to do a whole lot of flashy things as a creator, but he'll make the right pass when he catches it. He'll finish around the rim. He'll get up there with some offensive rebounds. I mean, 7 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists for him. You're not asking for much more from a numbers standpoint from Gary Payton, but it's all those intangibles that you were touching on, Pat. I love the shout. I also was listening to a podcast the other day. One of the Ringer shows, I forget, group chat or something like that. They just kept calling him the Mitten. This one guy just kept referring to him as the Mitten, and he said it about 6 times. How do you guys feel about that? Hearing it a lot makes me uncomfortable. Like, it's almost a slight to him being called the Mitten, but it's also kind of dope. I'm not sure. I'm torn. What's the Mitten vibes right now?
No.
Out. Shen's out. Anybody else thoughts on the Mitten? I don't know.
Can't be any more confident in that. No.
You can't just because his dad's the glove. You can't have the Mitten.
I mean, if anything, it's the mitt. I don't know why we're going with the mitten, but
right, it makes him feel like delicate and warm.
I think there's a better way to word it, but the idea is there. They just might need to kind of, brainstorm that one a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you say it once, it's like, play on the glove. But then you say it like 5 times. You're like, all right, are we making fun of him now? Like, because he's small? Like, are we small shaming Gary Payton? That doesn't seem fair. I don't know. That's just my brain being weird. Anyways, game 3 coming up. Boston is -3.5. We'll get into some other lines here in a second. But before we get into that, -3.5 for Boston in game 3. Steph Curry plus 100. Actually, you know what? Screw it. On the fly, radioing right now. We'll do that at the end. Let's go back to game 3. Boston's -3.5. They're home. We talked about their home court advantage or lack thereof throughout this series, how it hasn't been extraordinarily special. And they're actually playing extremely well on the road. They still won in Golden State. First of all, that line, is that what we expected? Because I kind of expected an even lower line. I expected Boston 1.5. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's fair. This is a stay away game from me. I'm not betting game 3. I'm actually kind of hoping Boston wins game 3 because then it would give me more confidence in betting Golden State game 4. And then I think they would 3 in a row, 4, 5, 6, knock them out. I don't know why Mark's giving me that face.
I'll tell you why. Because Pat Boyle never met a game he didn't like to bet. That's why. It's that simple.
Well, I don't want to bet Boston, but I'm not confident. If I'm confident Warriors, whatever game they win at Boston, it would be 4 over 3. So yeah, again, I'm not betting it. I think it's going to be close. I think this has the potential to be one of the biggest games of the series. It could swing the series. It might give Boston that chance to, that belief that, hey, maybe we can. I'm sure they have the belief, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they win game 3, they're up 2-1. They've got game 4 at home. They're going to be thinking that they have a shot to win this series, a legitimate shot. Whereas if Golden State wins game 3, they've already taken away the home court advantage. They know that even if they lose game 4, they can then send Boston to the brink if they win at home in game 5. So I think, I don't know what to expect, really. That's why I'm not betting it in game 3, but I think it's going to be, tremendous to see the adjustments now through 2 games where Golden State dominated the third quarter in both. Boston had to knock a punch in the fourth. It was a blowout in game 2. Maybe it's more so me just hoping that we finally get a wire-to-wire game for all 48 minutes, because that feels like we haven't had a single one in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Pat, when you say you don't like the game, that means you're going to get a little same-game parlay action, maybe a little –
Pete, let me take it from there if that's what you're gonna get to. I'm sure Pat Boyle will find some teaser combination with Golden State plus 10 and something on the total. Trust me.
Wait,
I guarantee you it happened.
Pat, stay muted for a second. Shen, predict a Pat Boyle same game parlay right now. And Pat, tell me how he does.
I don't even know if he's going to go same game. He might just go tease with the points with Golden State and the total of the game. Or he'll throw in something where he goes Golden State plus 10, Steph Curry to get 1 steal and Steve Kerr to be holding 2 timeouts with 2 minutes left in the game. Something ridiculous like that. And then he'll use the profit boost too. That puts it up to like plus 5 million. But anyway,
Steve Kerr holding 2 timeouts is fantastic.
I guarantee you, Pat Boyle has money in some way on that game tomorrow night.
I'm seeing more. Pat, tell me about this. You're going to go Andrew Wiggins 2+3s because it's going to be nice odds. Maybe sprinkling Jordan Poole 15+ points. And then maybe, I don't know, on the Celtics side, I don't know what you're feeling there. I don't know. Are you feeling either of those 2 legs? Those are some legs that feel kind of good to me right now.
I love the Jordan Poole one. I mean, I've been hyping him up here for the last half
Oh,
hour.
he's already in.
All right, so here we go. If I'm gonna make one, let's go Golden State plus 10. What's the over under on this game here? 212.5. Let's go under 220.
Yeah, that's high.
So Golden State plus 10, under 220. Let's go Tatum 25+ points. I like the Wiggins 2+3s. Jordan Poole to have 15. And if I had to have one more, I'd say give me Draymond 2+ steals.
Did I not have this like pegged with some of these props he's going for?
I'm trying,
and the color of the Gatorade to be blue.
What'd you have? 25 for Tatum?
Yes.
I'm trying to put this in live. I'm putting this in live to see the odds.
Golden State
plus 1,000.
Golden State plus 10.
Yeah.
Under 220.
Yep.
Tatum 25+.
Okay.
Wiggins 2+3s.
Right.
Poole 15+ points.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can get Draymond 2+ steals.
This is definitely plus 1,000 or more.
No,
100%.
this is like plus. This has got to be plus like 8,000.
Oh,
This is not hitting, is
No.
what's happening.
It's
No,
not
this
that
is-
high.
I'm feeling real good about it. Hold on. Draymond Green steals. That's all I need left. This is terrible radio. It's okay. It's going to be on the board too. Oh, that's Al Horford. Sorry. I was about to say that just went crazy. Oh, wow. All right. What's the over-under guess on how much this is?
If I had to guess, go ahead. Cody, you go first. Go ahead.
3,500.
Wow.
Can't be close with that response.
No one else is even allowed to guess. Check that out right there. Cody O'Conner.
Wow.
Banger. If
Well,
we don't
now you have to have me back.
Cody, that's off the charts. I don't even want to let anyone else guess there. That's on the money. Somebody's sprinkled some same game parlays in their day.
Make sure people are watching. My hands aren't doing anything. I'm not doing anything on my end.
That's impressive stuff. You can guarantee that I'm putting something on this. You can guarantee it.
Yeah, 10 cents.
Guarantee. 10 to win 360. How you doing? How you doing? Oh my God. All right, we're riding. That's a podcast parlay right there. We all got to throw something on it.
Yeah, I feel like I have to now. That's unbelievable.
Oh man, that's good. All right, well, back to it. Cody, -3.5 for Boston. Is that properly lined for you? And what are you feeling?
I would have thought maybe 2.5, but it's really hard to say it's too high because every game this whole playoffs has seemed like a blowout. Like you're going to tell me that 3.5 is too many points for either side after what we've been seeing. And I say that, and then on the same breath, it's like, well, game one looks like a blowout by the end, but it really wasn't. We know that was a 6-point game with like 4 minutes left. Game two is a 2-point game at half, and Golden State goes nuclear in the third quarter. So could you get a closer game? Of course you can. I think we all hope for one. The beauty of taking this future is I've stayed off the night-to-night stuff, which has kind of been like almost stress relieving. So there's no player props being added until now. I'll have to add that one. But I would have said 2.5. I think 3.5 is close enough, though.
Yeah, it's almost one of those things where it has to be only 3.5 because otherwise the juice on the Warriors to win outright would be too high. And that's the only advice you need. If you're leaning towards the Warriors, you have to put on the money line as well. Like take your 3.5. That's probably what I'm going to do. Like I don't bet a lot. So like But either way, like say we put a unit on the plus 3.5 for the Warriors, you have to sprinkle something on the money line too. Otherwise, you're just wasting value, right? Like you said, there hasn't been many close games here. If you like them 3.5, you got to try to like them to win. It's not quite like football 3.5. So Shen, thoughts on that?
I'm really just going to echo what Cody and Pat said. I think the line's right where it should be. Yeah.
All right,
there go ahead.
If you do like Boston, take them minus 3.5 and then sprinkle on like minus 12.5, right? You said with all the blowouts we've been seeing.
Yeah, 8.5, 9.5, something, right? Might as well, because even the way these games have gone, even if it's close, it's not ending close. So that's a possibility.
And we're seeing like inter-game load management too, right? Like once it even becomes a formality, like in the third quarter, I think Boston was already pulling their guys. I mean, they were down 30, but still, like,
right.
You know, we've seen the LA Clippers erase how many 30-point deficits in the regular season this year? Like, it's not unthinkable. And once they went down by like 22, 24, that was it. That game was over.
Yeah, and on the series front, Warriors minus 105, Celtics minus 115, so pretty much even there. If you want to bet the series outright, that's a nice way to get involved with all the games without having to guess, like kind of what Pat's saying, right? Like if you really like the Warriors still to win in 6 or whatever, you just take the Warriors at minus 105 to win the series, and you're feeling pretty good about every game, but you don't have to kill yourself over one Celtics win, or vice versa for that matter. Celtics minus 115 is a similar concept. Finals MVP picks before we say goodbye. Steph Curry plus 100, Tatum plus 115. Then you get a huge jump to plus 900 on Jaylen Brown, plus 7,000 on Smart and Horford, plus 8,000 on Draymond Green. Before we pick Steph or Tatum, because that really comes down to who you think is going to win the series, is there anyone there that is interesting to you, Andrew Wiggins or Klay Thompson or Jordan Poole? Is there anyone outside of Steph or Tatum that can realistically take this Finals MVP?
I can see them giving it to Draymond if he plays the defense that we know he can play, and he's dropping, like he's going to have to, like the numbers wise, right? Because we know it's going to come down to numbers at some point. He's going to have to average 10 points per game minimum. He might have to average 12 for the series, 12 points per game, and he's going to have to average like 8 rebounds and 8 assists. And you're going to have to like see him physically just obliterate Tatum and Brown and Horford in the paint, where you're saying like, holy shit, nobody can get past Draymond. That's what it's going to take. But no, I mean, it's a formality. If Golden State wins the series, Steph's getting the MVP.
I'm with Pat. I think it can be Draymond Green at those odds. That's what I would have said if he didn't beat a bunch.
Right. If anyone, you're saying it could be Draymond.
I think just because of how big his presence is for the Warriors. And I will, though, totally disagree here with Pat in saying that it's a formality for Curry to win the MVP. I think if it's one of the the guards, I think it would be him, Thompson, or Poole. If either of them get hot the remainder of the series, I don't think it's got to go to Steph just because he hasn't won it yet and he needs to get it. I don't buy into that. So we'll see.
For every voter who thinks, oh, it has to go to Steph, he deserved the first one, he's probably going to deserve this one, there's probably a couple guys who are like, but did he really deserve it? But is he really that guy? Is he truly a top 10 point guard or player of all time? Like, all this garbage.
I can see Stephen A. I can see Stephen A. right now. Just saying that.
No, I don't think there's any chance, especially with how he's played already, that if the Warriors win, it's not Steph. Like, I don't think there's literally any single chance. And yeah, maybe I'm falling victim to it, but I think that narrative thing is very real when it comes to the NBA. You're talking about Steph trying to cement himself as arguably a top 10 player of all time, and you don't think that the voters are going to fall victim to that even a little bit?
I think that's bogus. I think that's bogus as it is that he's top 10. But go ahead.
Oh. No, listen, I'm not saying he's top 10 all time. I'm saying he is putting himself in the conversation with a 4th championship and a finals MVP now. Unanimous MVP, back-to-back MVPs. Those things are adding up at this point. So he's getting closer into that conversation, and that narrative's going to play a part. I think it's Steph if they win, Tatum if they win. Your long shot might be Jaylen Brown, who I do think has a big game 3. But, I don't think there's anywhere else to look. The value's probably on Steph if you think the Warriors are going to win.
Right. And there's no real difference in juice. It's plus 100 for Curry to win the MVP. It's minus 105 for them to win the series. So, like, it doesn't particularly matter. At that point, you just take the Warriors to win the series because you're not winning anything extra on betting Curry unless you're like a psychopath and worrying about the 5-point difference on the VIG there, which, for me, when you're betting $20, it's not making that big a difference.
Responsibly.
I'm a responsible bettor. I'm proud to say it.
Me too, Peter.
We try our best out here. Yeah, the Draymond thing's interesting because I do think there is one way. And honestly, Steph Curry misses a game. I don't know. Something like that goes down, right? Like,
bro, do not speak that into existence.
Oh,
it's more likely Draymond kicks someone in the nuts again and he misses the game. Come on.
Misses the game. Right. Yeah, no, honestly, Pat, I shouldn't have said that out loud, but I don't believe in jinxes like that. And now a bunch of angry Yankee fans will yell at me and Michael K for ruining perfect games or something stupid like that. Pat, you're a broadcaster. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's bullshit, the jinxes. If somebody has a no-hitter or a perfect game through 5, I'm saying he's got a no-hitter or a perfect game through 5.
It's literally the broadcaster's job to tell somebody who may have just tuned in what's going on. And if you just tuned in, wouldn't you like to know? Right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's simple. Cody, Shen, any other thoughts on this so me and Pat don't have to sound like biased broadcaster types?
I don't know. On the outside looking in, that's a pickle because I haven't looked at it from that perspective. But I know the Mets had I believe, a no-no go, and recently my dad brought it up, and the next batter hit a base hit. So, I mean,
that's all.
maybe that was just bad timing, but and I guess he's got to fix the lighting down here too, huh?
Yeah, your dad's fucking up a lot here lately.
Yeah, I can't wait till he listens.
Just getting dragged for no reason, catching shade.
Catching stray bullets left and right.
Oh, tough. Shen, you're a rational guy, but I feel like you have something in your deep innards as a baseballer that you don't like this conversation.
No. Real quick, Mark. Mark is when it comes to betting.
Please.
Hold on. When it comes to betting, I'd be saying something about a team doing well, and Mark would scream at me. I'd be like, dude, the game is thousands of miles away. We are not affecting it.
All right, now, Pete, I'm going to talk as if Pat didn't say anything. And you're gonna laugh at how similar this is going to sound. One day, Pat Boyle is going to realize his power is to affect the game miles and thousands of miles away. He has it. Trust me, he has it. So, yes, but it's that ego of his that will not prevent him doing it. So, but yes, he can make a difference.
You can make a difference.
I've seen it.
You're pro jinx. You're such
especially when it comes to that guy.
To Michael K or to Pat Boyle?
Pat Boyle.
Oh, Pat Boyle. That's kind of a compliment that he's telling you that your words have the power to change the game.
I'll take that.
Just for the worst, though, Pete. Just for the worst.
I think you're just trying to get in his head to make him.
We've hit the delusional stage of the podcast now.
Yeah, I love it. That's what I'm here for. That's my favorite time of the podcast, when we're a little delusional. But I think that's all we got. Do we have any last words for this series? I don't know if we're going to get to talk. Actually, this series is going to go so long. I think Game 7 would be the weekend of Father's Day if it goes that far. So we might have a chance to come back on and talk after Game 4. Who knows?
Yeah, that, and I think it's fucking 3 days off between every single game except 3 and 4. It's Wednesday, Friday, and then I think it's 2 days off again every game after that. So yeah, we have plenty of downtime.
I got to be honest. So we'll finish off with this, I guess, because I'm interested in. I don't know if you guys care at all, but the idea of ratings. I used to work in that world of TV ratings and digital ratings and all that crap. So I have a weird interest in it. But people are tweeting out, "Oh, this is one of the lowest finals watched. Well, least finals. God, I can't even do words right now. One of the least watched finals games in recent history, etc." Even though the playoffs in general have been doing pretty well. Do you guys read anything into that? Is there something to say about the 3-game spread where they are losing momentum? Is it the lack of close games since the conference finals? Because it's clearly not star power. I mean, look at the Warriors, look at some of the Celtics guys. Any thoughts on that? Or do you think it's just some bad numbers, bad timing?
One, I don't give a shit. Two, I hope the numbers are down. I hope less people watch. That way you have less idiots out there talking about basketball that don't know the sport. You've got less people that can copy my takes. You just got less idiots out there in general. So I hope the ratings are down because that means less idiots are watching.
There you go. Any other thoughts on that?
Because the NBA fans like us, we're watching no matter what, right?
Correct.
This could have been fucking Detroit and give me a team from the West. This could have been Detroit and the
OKC.
This could have been Detroit and Portland in the NBA Finals, and I'd be watching every single game.
Cade, future top 10 all day, every day.
Really quickly on that, I've heard so many people talking about the product of every other game, and that being the reason that the games have been such blowouts because they're playing every other day. Guys are tired, this and that. Now they're playing every 3 days. We have a complaint with that. That's NBA Twitter in a nutshell. Complain about this, that, and the other. I couldn't care less. I'll be watching tomorrow night, eyes glued.
It's a great point.
Me, Pete, to be honest, I could care less as well. Who cares what the ratings are? I mean, maybe it's down a little bit because, like I said, I don't think the guys on Boston have that equal star power as, a face of the league like Curry. Right. Curry and Thompson have been there several times before. It's Boston's first time in the finals.
And I always say this, and this is another one of those things where like a regular like fan of one team will hate to hear this, but like I always say Cinderellas don't truly exist and that it's kind of a hoax, right? Like as much as you want the underdog to win that game, win that series, oh my God, can you imagine if the 8 beats the 1? Yeah, then what? You have to watch a shitty 8 seed team play a 3 seed and get their doors blown off. Like that's how it usually goes, right? And I don't really want to see that. I want to see the best players in the biggest moments, and basketball gives us that as much as any sport. And we were spoiled with the Cavs Warriors. By year 2, year 3, people were trying to complain about that. I said, you're all liars because you all care more now than you do when it's freaking Raptors Warriors without Kevin Durant hurt, or when it's Heat Lake. Well, that's LeBron. It doesn't really count, but you get the point. Like when it's not LeBron, when it's not Curry, when it's not big markets, people literally tell us they don't care more by not watching, not talking about it. So everyone says, oh, dynasties are ruining the sport. They make the sport amazing every single time they exist or are knocking at the door to exist. Because as soon as the Celtics win this series, they're going to say, well, how many Celtics championships are we going to see in the next 4 years? Over or under 3.5? Like, absolutely not. That's probably not how it's going to go because it rarely does. If the Warriors win instantly, is Steph Curry top 10? Is the Warriors going to get another 1 or 2 in their run here? Like those are the things that create the true conversation, create the true hype. And when you get the one-off championships, people pretend to be excited, but then they don't care and say that the Raptors were a fluke, right? Which is also not true. So, like you said, Cody, you summed it up much quicker than I did. No matter what, people are going to complain about something. The officiating always going to be complained about in every sport, no matter what, all the time, because all of us on our couches are much more suited to call professional games as referees than any of those guys who are trained. So yeah, that's my spiel. And that's all we got. Any last words not to do with the NBA Finals? Perhaps any good shows? Maybe some baseball chatter? Cody, what's the Mets update? They're down 4-0.
Not our night, but speaking of dynasties, you got one on the top of your head incoming right now. Most fun I've had watching since probably 2015. I'll keep it at that.
Shout out New York Mets. Rangers lost down to 2-2 in that series now. Got 4-1 beat up by the Lightning. Tough one. No Rangers fans in this chat, correct?
No, I had Lightning -1.5 and -2.5, and they got an empty netter with like 5 seconds left. So
very cool, Pat.
Wow, that is very cool. I'll give you a ding. There you go. All right, guys. Thanks for listening to Subway Sports Talk. If you like what you've been hearing, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts app and Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Subway Sports Talk. And if you're watching on YouTube, drop a little comment. It helps us out to get these videos in front of more people. And really, that's the goal here, right? We want to see more people watching this and talking to us about their takes. So let us know what you like in this series, Warriors versus Celtics. How many games, all your predictions, maybe a crazy same game parlay like we put together. We got to love those. So that's all we got for Cody O'Conner, Mark Shenloogian, Pat Boyle. I'm Pete Kennedy. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.